Hey, this is Fred West with the Solar Agents. We just finished a service call with an orphan system. Basically, that's a system that was installed by another company, and for one reason or another, the original installer is no longer able to service that system. It's interesting when we come out with these appointments. It's about 50-50, where 50% of the people are very satisfied with their purchase. They would absolutely do it again and recommend to others, but honestly, the other 50% of a lot of these folks are not satisfied with their installations for one reason or another. And so, because we've heard a lot of feedback and we've seen a lot of things in servicing these systems, we decided to do a video of the top 7 reasons that homeowners don't feel that their investment has met their expectations. So for anybody thinking about moving forward with a solar project, these are things for you to consider. And for anybody who's already gotten their solar installed, these are things that you just want to look out for to protect your investment. Enjoy.
All right, folks. Really happy to have this conversation and put this information out there because of probably one of the most challenging parts of our business is, interacting with homeowners that are not satisfied with their solar purchase and their solar decision. We see a lot of them, not because we have any challenges. We're, at least at the time of this video, we're 5.0 on every platform. But since we do help orphan systems, meaning systems that were installed by solar companies that are out of business, that's quite often we will get a lot of feedback. And like I said, it's a lot of people who are satisfied with their installation. We're out there because the manufacturer had to upgrade a part, or there's been some type of accident or some type of change. We've had a bird or some other critter chew a line or something to where it has nothing to do with their installation. It's just natural things happen to anything that's installed in your house, right? So there are times where people are really satisfied with their installation, and we're just out there helping them and supporting them and keeping the system going. But there is also a lot of people who are dissatisfied with their installations. They felt that they were promised one thing, or they don't feel like they're getting full value of their systems, in that it's not operating correctly and hasn't been operating correctly for a period of time, which is really, really unfortunate. And so, this video is really for 2 people. All right. We have a group of people right now who are interested in solar. The idea of solar has piqued their interest, but there's just so much negative press, internally and externally, out, just in the general world, but also within their friend groups about it. They say, well, it makes sense. I've heard it works before, but I'm talking to these people and they're just really disappointed in their decision. So those people, this is the video to show, hey, this is what we are seeing out there on why people are disappointed in their install. Then you have another group of people who have already purchased their systems, and they're wondering why this is what we are promised as part of the project, but this is what we have. So what the heck happened? We were so excited that night that we were there. We saw all these numbers. And unfortunately, in our industry, a lot of people have that really hard press. One sit close. You're closing it tonight. We'll give you this deal tonight. And by the way, if your solar company's like that and they try to tell you, buy now or you're going to miss out on this, just have them leave. And because all they're trying to do is just overwhelm you with information and put you in a bad situation. And that's what's happened to a lot of these people. So this is for those people who have, were under that spell, as it were, the night that, that the representative and designer was out there. And when they got their system installed, it totally didn't meet their expectations. All right. So the first of the 7, though, that we talk about, and this is probably one of the most common, has to do with subpar design software. So we're not seeing this so much now. A lot of the design softwares, Aurora, as far as I know, always had this, the TSRF, and had the offset numbers accurate as long as the designer knew what he was doing. But there are other ones that did not have this as a part of their core offering. and they were cheaper software. So people didn't want to use something like this, didn't want to use something like Aurora because of the cost associated with it. So there are other people who had these other subpar design softwares and they just weren't giving accurate information. All right. So if you don't know what TSRF is yet, you see at the bottom of the screen now, if you don't know what that is yet, that's fine. We have another video. Go ahead and look at our library on YouTube, and you're gonna see where we talk about solar vocabulary. That you just learn it there because I don't want to go over it. But if the design software doesn't have a TSRF and or does not have the offset spelled out to where, all right, this is your annual usage, meaning this is what your house uses, on a annual basis, with all your months combined, and it doesn't have an annual production where this is what your system is going to produce, then you're going to have a problem. Another thing that we see was they may have had all of these things and they may have used the correct software, but the utility either never net metered or they stopped net metering. This actually just happened in Texas a couple years ago where the utility used to give full credit for the extra power you created. Well, none of the utilities in Texas do that like they used to now. They don't allow you to accumulate extra, kilowatt hours and pass it over month to month like they used to. And that's because the utility, honestly, the expenses of the utility. And I'd say this is why you should get solar. But if it wasn't explained, with how the net metering worked in the state or how self-supply worked, then you would end up in a situation where you may have had more value a couple years ago with your solar and now you lost it. And so good design software allows you, like for example, right now, Aurora has a self-supply graph of, all right, well, this is what you would expect based off your battery and based off of, the production you're doing. This is how much your bill should be from month to month. If it doesn't have that ability, then you're going to end up in a situation where it possibly could not meet your expectations. All right. So design software, number one, first thing. Second thing, and this is, I put this sometimes on the homeowners because I don't know a solar company that will not ask for a power bill, but I do know a lot of solar companies that if they got too much pushback from the homeowner, they just gave up on it. And that's the worst thing that can happen during the design process for solar. All right. So this right here is a Dominion Energy sample bill. It's available on their website to where it shows what you should expect, what the bill should look like. All right. If you look down to the bottom left corner, you're going to see where it has a usage history and it has, all 12 months. Typically has 13 here because it has March twice. That's because it's going to show last March and this March. But it's got all, 12 months of power that's being consumed by the home. Now, this is why this is important. We have had several situations where people will give us certain aspects of their home and have us determine the size of the system that they need. So they'll say, all right, I have a 2-story home that's 2,300 square feet, or I even have 2 air conditioning units, or we just, our home's only 3 years old and it's this many square. That way they will try to give us factors for their home to use to build the system out. And what we explain ad nauseum is every single home is different. I don't care if it's a major construction where 5 of the homes on the same street facing the same way, which would have all the same installation and everything else. I'm telling you, those 5 homes consume differently because I've had people who set the thermostat at 76 during the summer, believe it or not. I have some people who set it at 68. Boom, big difference right there. I have people who have multiple people inside their homes, even like children. And if you've got kids or at least multiple people in the home, that's more people taking showers. That's more people opening refrigerators. That's more people opening the door. That's just more activity in the home, which generally speaking increases the bill. I've had people who have electric vehicles. Some don't have electric vehicles. I've had people who have Energy Star appliances. I mean, everything they bought was top of the line Energy Star. And I've had other people who that is not a primary focus for them. I've had people who have been on the same street for 15 years. One has replaced their AC unit within the last 2 years. The other one still has the original one from 15 years ago. It's kind of one of those, hey, if it ain't broke, don't fix it deals. And all of those factors have an impact on your consumption in your home. And there are plenty more. I'm just giving you many, many examples with it right now. So what we were seeing is, again, these are homes that we've gone to fix their systems. And so they ask, well, solar doesn't work. Well, no, solar works. Solar produces power. It's a power station. The only difference is instead of buying it from a Dominion Energy, you are creating it yourself. So the system is designed to create a certain amount of power. And if the system creates that much power, then it's working. So what ends up happening, though, is the sales rep or the design rep, whatever, they didn't actually put the bill in. I've had some that were so just lazy and didn't care. And I've had others that the homeowner pushed and pushed. They're like, all right, that's fine. I'll just do what I want. And what they would do is they put in a kind of an arbitrary number, like 1,000. So, all right, well, based off your home, you should be at 1,000 kilowatt hours. Well, look what type of impact that would have. If somebody just had some arbitrary number, you average 1,000, yeah, in May and June and July and September and October, hey, you're okay. Even August at 1068, you're okay. But then look at the winter, right? In the winter, January had 3093. And at 3093, that would be, if they just put 1,000 per month, 3093, that is 3 months of power right there, which would totally throw all the math off. So that's one thing you absolutely want to check. If you're looking into solar and you want to say, hey, just my house is this size, I'm telling you, please don't do that. People end up in a bad spot when they do that. Just find the bill, to go ahead and take away the personal information you want to for the design side, because we do actually need a bill later on to match your meter up with the install. So you always have to get the full bill after your project or for your project to move forward, I should say. But go ahead and isolate that information if it feels you more comfortable, but make sure that they have these numbers, okay, if you're looking into solar, because that's what's going to give them the most accurate information. But for folks who don't have a system that's meeting their expectations, I mean, to kind of think back, all right, did we have a bill at the time? Did they push to get the bill at the time? And another part here, which is interesting, and we don't see it as often, but we also have it where people will have major shifts in their consumption because they add a family member, because they add a greenhouse. That was one of the funniest conversations I've ever had with somebody. They're like, the system's broken. Something's not working. I don't know why. It used to cover our bill, but it doesn't cover our bill anymore. And I was like, all right, well, your system is working as well as it did 3 or 4 years ago. And I'd actually have to go through 3 or 4 years of consumption. And it just quick, sidetrack here. And I'm going for 3 or 4 years of their consumption. I was like, well, 2 years ago in November, what happened? And I accidentally started a fight. The husband goes, well, that's when we got that greenhouse. I was like, what greenhouse? And they said, well, yeah, we built this greenhouse. We got heaters and these other things out there. And, I told my wife it was going to increase our bill, but she said it wouldn't increase it by that much. I said, well, I will tell you now, I'm looking at the screenshots and it has increased your bill significantly by about a third for the months you have it out there. And they would have it out there from November to March. Because in Virginia, the weather just sometimes it lasts from November to March, and I reinvigorate a fight between the two of them because he said it was going to happen, and she didn't. And she got mad at me, and I said, "Man, all I could tell you is what the numbers tell me. I could see how much power you use. I see the change here." And those things that's not the fault of solar. Solar is made to be a power station that creates a certain amount of power. All right. So energy bill, very important. But this is an area where it is not the fault of the homeowner at all. And that's these EEPs, which is a general term in our industry for energy efficiency programs. This company called it Smart Power 360, I think. There are all other tags on it. But basically, what it is this: is that as part of the value of purchasing solar, they added these other energy efficiency devices inside of the home. Now, initially, when they would do this, they would just have it as a perk or an upgrade or a freebie giveaway, where they'll say, all right, well, if you move forward with this, we're going to do all these things for you. And the cost was usually anywhere from $500 to $1,000, because there's some labor involved with some of these, and some of it's just a box that they give you with the light bulbs and stuff. And honestly, as a free upgrade or as a perk or something else, I am perfectly fine with creating more efficiency in a home. That is a great thing to do. Again, it impacts some people more than others, but I am just really happy with increasing the efficiency of a home. But several years ago, it evolved into, well, if we know, and I'm doing quotes that you can't see right now, if we know that we're going to get this type of impact with adding these different energy efficiency strategies, then let's just go ahead and count that towards the offset number. Let's count that towards, this is your consumption, this is your production, this is the value of solar. And this specific company, which is out of business now, so it doesn't really matter, they added it to, where we're talking about that 104% number, they added this 25% as part of that 104. So in reality, they were building a system that was only doing 79%. But they were claiming it was doing 104% because they were doing these different things in the home. Here's the problem with that. Blown insulation, okay, in a home that's only 5 years old, that should have more than 12 inches anyway. It doesn't always, but should. It's not going to have a 9% impact. It's going to have a minimal impact. But if you get a home that's 30 years old, where they didn't talk about doing 12 to 14, that could have a huge impact. It could actually be more than 9%. All right. LED bulbs, most of the new homes we have now, they have to use LED bulbs. So that 4% is totally out the window. However, if you have a home that is 30 years old that doesn't have LED lighting, or a lot of it, that could make a difference. The attic tent, it's such a specific type of attic that could benefit from that. That 1%'s out the windows as well. All right. The one that really bothers me are, the water heater blankets and the faucet aerators. Okay. Those literally only apply if you have electric hot water. If you don't have electric hot water, it may help you with your gas, right? But some of those gas water heaters, putting a blanket over it's going to do nothing. And so I tell a lot of people, if this is what's being presented to them, don't let it factor in. Consider it a freebie, consider it an upgrade. It is most likely worth doing these things for a home and increasing your energy efficiency. But do not allow the company that is designing your system to factor, especially a ridiculous number like 25%. I've actually, again, gone through contracts with people, and I'm like, all right, so they're the EEP, the energy efficiency program, they say 25% here. How much of this stuff did you actually install? And I've had them tell me, well, I know they did the installation, but like they gave us a box with the rest. So they're not even utilizing these other things. This is why they're disappointed. So again, the company that you work with, if they offer it, great, but do not allow them to have it as a part of the offset number when it comes to your solar. All right. So then we move to this one's kind of complicated in that there are times where just honestly the manufacturer cannot do what you want for your home. The reason we run into this, the reason why people run into this is because most of our installer companies, they and most people installing, they're captive agents, which means they have an agreement with a manufacturer, or just their installation teams are only trained with one manufacturer, and their systems are limited for what that they can do. Okay, we install multiple manufacturers because we realize every home is different, every need is different for every home, and so we try to open ourselves up to allow multiple manufacturers so we can meet the needs of the majority of people. All right. But when you have a captive agent that either doesn't have the ability to go outside of the manufacturer because there are people who only know one as far as their certification, or they have this agreement, that company has a conflicting motivation, which is they did spend money on the marketing to get that lead. All right. And when you spend money on the marketing to get that lead, you don't want to burn the lead. You don't want to waste the lead. So it is your responsibility to do everything you can with it. Now, an honest installer, okay, or one that has experience, knows when they can't do what the homeowner wants. For example, this is a Solar 15K system. And this is probably one of the, if not the premier whole home backup manufacturers in the nation right now. The reason why is because if you look, they have a peak amperage available of 125 amps. So this one inverter can do 125 amps peak, which could start most air conditioning units and run most homes. And they have an output continuous of 62.5, which will take care of most homes. In addition, it has the ability to stack. And so if you have a home that exceeds these demands that are here, you can literally put a second inverter into the system and it will double all of these numbers. So this system, the Solar, and there are other ones out there, but this is top one in the nation as far as we have seen, and we've actually witnessed as part of our own installs. This system here can do a whole home backup, but you have other systems, and I'm not going to mention them here, but if they don't have the peak capability of running the air conditioning unit and the hot water heater and these other things, then they're not going to run that. If they don't have the battery partners that can supply the power to the inverter to do that, it's not going to work. And so some installers, they probably pushed, either they pushed people to accept the install with the conditions it wasn't going to do this, this, and this, and the homeowners didn't really understand what they were telling them, or they pushed it and said it would and it didn't. It's really disappointing to see this, but not having the right manufacturer put together the system for you is a big impact. What I will tell folks again that are considering solar, there's nothing that I've seen that solar and battery can't handle. And I'm talking even mid-sized businesses with manufacturing. I mean, you can put a system large enough together to back that up entirely. We've done it. But for folks that have already purchased their system and they're wondering why it's not meeting those expectations, most likely it was because their installer was a captive installer and didn't have the options to go to. And Solar's not the only one, but there are other ones out there. Solar did not have the ability, or the installer did not have the ability to give you the system that you're looking for. So apologize for that. So then we talk a little bit about, the subpar designers, which I really just hinted to a second ago. There's a lot of turnover in the solar industry. It's unfortunate. It is easy to get burnt out on this industry because, between the interest rates and the dealer fees and how the manufacturers change and whatever's happening in the world. I mean, just it's so many variables that we're dealing with. I would say they're like any other industry, but there's just so many variables that we deal with that they're just some people who just it's hard for them to stay in it. All right. That being said, because there's so much turnover, you end up with really new green designers that don't understand the opportunities with solar, but also the limitations of solar. And when it comes to that whole home backup, or when it comes to the offset, or it comes to the importance of the bill, basically all the things we've already described and touched on, they don't know what they don't know. And so we are seeing it where people said, yeah, no, he was absolutely new. We knew he was kind of new, but because he had all those tools, we thought it would be okay. Or, he got somebody else on the phone, and the other person they got on the phone, just really gave us the confidence that everything was okay. But we kind of could tell that he was new to the industry, or she was new to the industry. Well, that can hurt you. I will tell you that I have engaged with companies that will put agents out there that they just want to see if they can fly. They'll kick them out of the nest. Say, all right, they're either going to float or sink. They're either going to fly or die. Go ahead and go out there and let's see what happens. And unfortunately, homeowners are the real, are the people who lose in that situation. And so an inexperienced or subpar designer, it's going to hurt you. And this is 100% on the fault of the installing company. So look out for it. If somebody doesn't look like, if you talk to them, the vocab video I was telling you about before, if you talk to them and they don't know what clipping is, or they don't know what offset means, or even what TSRF is, like these are terms that you should learn if you're looking into this industry, or if you already have solar. But if that rep doesn't understand these terms, you need to ask, okay, is this a rep that can actually design what we want to have designed? All right. Now, I will say, okay, most of the time, if you have somebody who has a higher level of expertise and experience, they may cost more, right? I mean, because they have been in this industry and they know what they're doing. And the cost, may be harder to swallow. But what's really hard to swallow is getting a system that doesn't meet expectations and you suffering as a result of it for 10, 20, 30, 40 years. Trust me, that cost is far more. All right. So then let's go to the warranties. This one, man, almost without fail, this is one of the most prevalent complaints that we get, because the warranties that were sold, as part of the the manufacturers, or as part of the workmanship warranty that comes with a company that's gone out of business, they almost never meet expectations. If you have a workmanship warranty that's supposed to be, 2, 5, 10 years, which I've seen all across the gambit. If you have that type of warranty, if the manufacturer or if the installer goes out of business, you're done. But even when it comes to the manufacturers, a lot of these manufacturers, like with panels, they say it's a 25-year warranty on the solar panels. It's not really. Almost every manufacturer, unless it's an REC certified partner and they do everything they're supposed to do, almost every single one of the warranties on these solar panels are material only. In addition, they're depreciating. And that they'll say, okay, we have a 25-year warranty here, but it depreciates every 4 years. Sorry, say it depreciates 4% every year. My bad. And so that means they're depreciating that panel to where 10 years from now, you've lost 40% of the value of that warranty. And they may, so we're seeing it already, they may, instead of giving you a replacement panel, they may say, well, you purchased this panel for $200. We're going to give you 60% because that's what's left on it. It's not a true warranty, right? In that it's a replacement warranty. And so all of our installs and really any legitimate company is going to partner with a third party warranty provider. All right. Now, Solar Insure is not the only one. It's the one we chose. Lifetime Solar, they're another one that does something similar. And I don't know a lot of the other ones are out there. Honestly, there aren't a lot out there. But for example, Solar Insure, they have true replacement coverage, which means if the panel goes bad within 30 years for them, if the panel goes bad for 30 years, they will pay labor and material to replace the panel. That's a true warranty when it comes to your system. That is a lifetime warranty on the system, because most of these systems are only designed to be 30 years. When it comes to the inverter, it extends most inverters are anywhere from 10 to 12 years. It takes that 10 to 12 and extends it for 30 years. As you see on this slide here, they will also cover the roof penetrations, anything within 3 inches of penetration. So you get a leaky roof due to solar, 30 years. Now, it's not easy to qualify for this, meaning your installer needs to do good work, have good reviews, and have minimal claims against their insurance. Okay. But that's also for you. This is a qualifier. If they can't qualify for a third party extended warranty with Solar Insure, Lifetime, or whoever else, then that just really tells you where they're at as far as their business. And just be careful. All right. So, I would suggest, actually with Solar Insure, they have started a new program where they allow people who did not get this with their original install to get it. If you want more information about that, go to our website, fill out our contact form, and we'll be more than happy to share their new program they just came out with for people who don't have something like this for their system. It's absolutely worth it. But for folks that are considering installing in the future, this is a great question to ask. This is a great thing to prepare yourself with. And I don't care. I'll tell you, I've had plenty of companies try to sell the line, and I appreciate good installers. Some of the installers that we have been in this industry for 20 years, and we have the utmost confidence in their ability. And they will tell you, well, our warranty is better because we've been in business for so and so long. We do this, and we have these ratings. I don't care who it is. I've seen too many solar installers, for one reason or another, no longer be in this industry. And so having something third party outside of them, for me, I would not recommend anyone, no matter how good the install company is, I wouldn't recommend anyone get an install without something like this. That's just my personal recommendation from somebody who fixes a lot of these systems from companies that have gone out of business. All right. So then we move on to just the bad installers. And this one hurts because when we have people who say solar doesn't work, this is probably the most appropriate claim to solidify that. This company here, Power Home, we have a lot. They have 30,000 people, or a little more than, I think it's like 32 or 33,000 people they installed. And we help with a lot of their systems. And when they were on the back end of like going out of business, when they were, probably 6 or 8 months out, and then of course the year after they went out of business, they blamed their manufacturer. And I'm going to tell you, just from working with the manufacturers, there were some challenges with their system. I think the manufacturer would absolutely agree that there were challenges with that system. But specifically with this company, for such a national company, large company, the way that it is, when we go out to these sites, I mean, they would use metal conduit in trenches, which are not supposed to use metal conduit because it's going to leak. We've seen wiring problems. We've seen where we had incomplete installations. So, I mean, literally stuff that had nothing at all whatsoever to do with the manufacturer. And unfortunately, if you end up working with a company like this, you may end up in a situation where solar will not meet your expectations the way that it was purchased. Now, we have, okay, and there are other companies like us. So I'm not only going to claim it's us here. We have quite often gone to these sites, discovered what's wrong, made a permanent fix to it, and had the system then meet the expectations, which is great. But when it's workmanship related, when it has to do with how they installed it, not the manufacturer, this portion does actually come out of pocket, because the manufacturer is not going to cover it. And of course, a company like ours, we can't afford to fix systems for free. It's just not, it's not, we don't make that much to do that. So this is the unfortunate part. I do have to acknowledge it. We have seen many systems that are in this, but a lot of times, what it takes, especially early before there's something major that happens, something some type of catastrophic failure. A lot of times it's a reasonable amount to get it repaired and have it working the way it's supposed to. So if you find somebody that is positioned and experienced and in fixing these systems and basically diagnosing systems that somebody else installed, just ask them, hey, okay, I know you're fixing this today, but do you have a program where you can evaluate just the entire install of our system and recommendations for it? And some do and some don't, and that's okay. But you want to ask that question, because it will nickel and dime you to death if you don't. Your ROI is going to be nickel and dime to death. Your frustration is going to go up. And so if you do find yourself in a situation where you have a company like this that installs for you, our advice to you is find a good company to fix it for you, and then enjoy solar. And then, if I wouldn't say you would have saved any money with this company, though. A lot of times it's kind of a 50-50. Some of these systems we go out to that are not installed correctly, it was the cheaper option. And, you get what you pay for. You've heard that before, I'm sure. But I have to admit, the other half of them, like with this one, these were folks that claimed to be, high end, and they charged a high end price on their systems. And so you've already invested a lot into it. But I will tell you, the investment of getting it repaired is always worth, the long-term investment, the long-term return on investment of the system itself. All right. So that's basically it. Those are our 7 things that we're seeing out there. Really appreciate you taking your time. Again, for new purchasers to find out why is it that it's half the people are happy with their install, half of them aren't. I almost guarantee that the reasoning is one of these 7 things. And for the folks that have a system already and have wondered what happened, that this might give you some insight of what's going on. All right. Appreciate you. Look forward to serving you guys further in your solar journey. Thanks for checking out this video from the Solar Agents. Make sure to check out our channel and our other social media platforms for more solar tips and the very latest updates going on in the rapidly changing world of solar. Make sure to hit that subscribe button, and we look forward to being a continued part of your solar journey.